My name is Alexia Beckford, Program Manager at the Jamaica Technology and Digital Alliance, and I will be your co-host this evening alongside our VP of Marketing, Twitty and Thomas, who is also the CEO of Channel Pro. She wears many hats. And our topic this evening will be understanding NFTs. So we have an amazing lineup of heavy hitters for you. Let me introduce Alexia James. Yes, namesake. There are two Alexias this evening. Alexia is a digital marketer who has a wide range of experience is a global marketer who has experience in digital marketing, content creation, and ideation. Now, with the advent of digital intersecting technology, digital currency, and art, her interests have combined to bolster the platform awareness and opportunities for artists and creators from the Caribbean to have a footing in the NFT space. With us is Adrian Dunkley, President of the Jamaica Technology and Digital Alliance. He is a technologist and decision scientist with over 12 years experience in data science and AI across finance, travel marketing, risk management, and customer service. His passion is problem solving and driving value through optimal decision making. Next up is Trevor Forrest, CEO 876 Solutions, with more than 30 years experience in the IT industry and has demonstrated a commitment to driving improved standards of ICT adoption across public and private sector, where he has consulting on the design and evaluation of numerous ICT projects and digital transformation strategies. Right? We also have Bonita Thompson, an AR NFT artist. Bonita is a Jamaican artist who goes by the name Don Dada. He creates augmented reality experiences that uses art with technology and Jamaican life, heavily influenced by dance or culture. And his work seeks to represent all aspects of Jamaican pop culture, which is evidenced in key elements like sound system, zinc fences, dance moves, and other iconic dance hall imagery. Don Dada was born in 2019, and in 2020 he was featured as Kingston Creatives Artist of the Month for Reggae Dancehall Month in February 2020. Welcome everyone. I'm so excited for you to just break down understanding NFTs. We know that it's a hot topic, it's a big thing in the space. We've heard a lot of this stuff, discussion around NFTs. So, a person who may be a bit clueless, we see the word. Key question is, what is an NFT?
So we're directing that one at
Yes. What is an NFT?
All right, I'll take it.
Yeah. So
All right.
Everybody can answer it, I guess. But Adrian or Trevor?
Sure.
Or Adrian?
Okay. All right. So NFT stands for non-fungible token. The idea is you have a digital asset or a physical asset, and you basically assign a unique code to it on what's called a blockchain. So in essence, it's like a digital ledger that audits and tracks everything that goes on with this item. So it'll track who bought it, who sold it, where it is, who owns it, and all the features around it for pretty much all time. So I have two pens. I don't know if you can see the pens here. Pretty much are the same thing,
blurry.
right?
You can, yes.
They're kind of blurry, but yes.
Yes.
So these two pens. They're supposed to be pretty identical, right? This would be called fungible. So these are replaceable. Like think of a $50 bill or $100 bill or a nanny. If somebody gives you a nanny for another nanny, well, you probably think it's counterfeit. But other than that, assuming it's not a counterfeit, you're going to be fine replacing your $500 bill with their $500 bill, right? Now, let's say somebody gives you something like this, right? So you could consider this a little bit more unique than a pen, right? And the idea there is the asset itself may not be unique in terms of what it is, but assigning this digital code to it that follows it forever allows you to have a certain level of exclusivity and ownership of the item. So the other speakers will speak to the value in terms of that. But your version is yours. Potentially people could steal it. But aside from that, it's yours. It's different from anybody else's version. So that's pretty much what it is without getting into too much of the technical jargon of it.
So Adrian, so you said it's unique. So for example, NFTs, I read just before we started, one of the most expensive NFTs called the Merge sold for $91.8 million. So if it's unique, tell me how it is that persons earn from this. I understand that over 28,000 persons bought it. So if it's unique, just explain to me how that works and, why so many persons can purchase the same thing. You mentioned that it's with regards to a code that is tied to the product. Just explain that a little bit more.
Sure. So the digital asset itself doesn't have to be unique. So you could create 5 versions or 1,000 versions. But the uniqueness comes in when you put it on a blockchain. And the blockchain is basically, think of it like this public system that everyone has access to that allows you to monitor what's going on. So it's really open and transparent. So with that, even though it's 10 of the exact same files per se, each of them has an assigned code. Think of it as a code. And that code is really the uniqueness. But it goes a bit further than that, because with that quote unquote code that you're using on the blockchain that allows you to verify ownership at any point in time, you can also tie additional benefits towards that version of the NFT. So if you want to think of NFT, it's a digital physical asset plus this unique verification attached to it at the same time. Those two things come together and allow it to have this exclusivity and level of uniqueness, even though they may look. Because really, with that NFT, you get a screenshot. You could right click, save as, but your version isn't verified on the blockchain. Your version isn't really unique. Anyone can do that. You can't really verify that you have 1 of 5 or 1 of 10,000. That's really where it comes from.
Okay. Go ahead, Alexia. Go ahead.
All right, great. I think that leads to my next question. Knowing what an NFT is and having been exposed to, done that as work, what makes it valuable from a person who is, I don't want to say non-technologist, but a non-techie person, and I'm looking to, diversify my portfolio. What makes it valuable?
The thing that was for me. Sorry.
Yes, go ahead, Bonito.
Yes, Bonito.
I think the discussing value around an NFT, at the basis of it, an NFT is how you show ownership. If we're approaching it from an art perspective, which is what I can speak to. If you're approaching it from an art perspective, you buy what you're buying is the artwork. The NFT is the form that the artwork takes. So similar to how you can buy a canvas artwork or a print artwork, you can get it as an NFT, right? And for somebody who's purchasing art, the value of it is because you like it. It's art. The value of it is because you like the artist, right? That is, if you're thinking about NFT from an artistic perspective, that's it. Because it's also a digital asset, then that gives you the opportunity to plug different perks into it, So usually, like, what some persons have designed projects that you can get paid by earning an NFT. If something sells, you get a percentage of it, like stuff like that. But at the basis of it, if you're buying an NFT for art purposes, the value of it is the artwork that you like.
Okay, thanks for that. Trevor, do you want to add to that?
Sure. So I think what's important to do is to kind of wrap your head around the concept of a digital asset, which is anything that is represented in the digital form. So it can be artwork in the digital form, it can be music, it can be video, it can be a Microsoft Word document. anything that exists in the digital realm um, uh, can be considered a digital asset. Now, there is intrinsic value associated with that. But the challenge has always been, how do you ensure that if somebody sells that digital asset, whatever form it might take, um, because of the portability of digital assets and the malleability of digital assets, how do you ensure that you can pass on value between the creator and the various owners that may come after? Because that's always the biggest problem, right? It's the biggest problem for artists, the biggest problem for musicians, for creatives in general. After you create a piece of work and you sell it one time, you almost never see a cent of subsequent sales. And it gets more complex in the digital space because you can, you know, buy and sell things, download things. So the value now is comes from the fact that because, you know, Bonita may have created only 10 copies of this particular piece of art, and each one has a unique code associated with it. When I purchased that, and I purchased it because I like it. It's the, you know, what you may pay $10 for, I may pay $1,000 for, because of, you know, the feeling it imparts on me. But that's where the value comes from. And in doing so, you may find that somebody else, you may pay you 100,000 for what you paid that $10 for, because of, you know, what happens there with them. But the thing about it is, during that journey of exchanging the value that that particular asset has, what happens to Bonita, the creator?
Right.
So you have to have a system that will actually ensure that as the creations change hands, value may go up and down and so on, that the creator gets his due, and the people who are now owning it, who themselves are the ones that determine the value, for whatever reason, that is transferred and a record of that is kept. So that's really, you know, how NFTs, you know, can prove ownership, prove authenticity, because that's a key thing. Anybody can go right click, save as an image, but that image is not the original creation, which is again what people like to own. So you think about it, you know, Appleton will make 500 bottles of Appleton Estate 50.
Yeah.
Everyone has a number. But then the next man can go forge the bottle and some. But there are only 50 real ones of that, right? And they're tagged with a code. Well, that's a physical thing you can touch and feel. It's a lot more complicated when you're doing it in the digital space to be able to say, no, this is the original one, and I own that. So the value of, much like that, you know, $50,000 bottle of Appleton 50 is ascribed based on the person who is buying it and the value to them, and of course Appleton. And similarly with digital assets, whether it be an artwork created, a piece of music, video, you know, somebody scribbled something on a piece of white paper, took a picture of it, and it suddenly became, you know, sought after. The value that's how the value is ascribed to that kind of stuff, and it has to be monitored and tracked, and that's how blockchain plays its critical role in these work.
All right, so that brings a lot of questions. So you mentioned the uniqueness, maybe like exclusive value of 10. You know, the person would make an original amount of 10. So I guess with regards to like counterfeiting, how is that handled now in the digital space? You know, if, for example, you mentioned that the person who's buying and selling it back, how does like Bonito, how would Bonito earn from that? Is there anything to protect that currently in the digital space?
Right. So the key component and the underlying technology that facilitates that is blockchain. and it
Blockchain.
is blockchain technology that facilitates, you know, the an immutable record of, the creation of the NFT, um, assigning that code uh, that makes it unique, but also keeping a track of every time a transaction on that particular asset is done.
Mm.
So whether it changes hands, somebody sells it, uh, somebody buys it, so on. But also because of the strength and security of blockchain technology, forging stuff is extremely difficult. So you can't take an NFT. Well, I shouldn't say can't take. It's extremely difficult to take an NFT that has been created on the blockchain and then forge it. It's very, 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 very difficult to do, and that protects the creator. But what it also does is, because it's a ledger of transactions, when a creator creates, and they call it minting, mints
Mm.
an NFT, um, every time something happens to that NFT, uh, the creator can know about it. In fact, the creator can say, listen, I want this creation of mine to sell for X amount, and every time it changes hands, I want 10 or 15% of whatever the sell price is. And once it is done and set,
Mhm.
regardless of how many people buy it, how many times it changes hands, that artist will always get,
Get paid.
the 10 or 15% off the sell price at the time. Um, and all of that stuff is what is embodied and stored on the blockchain, through the use of smart contracts and so on.
Yeah.
That protects the artist's creation, so that after they have sold it, or even after they die, um, you know their estate is safe and protected that way. Right now, many artists in the traditional sense, when they sell a painting,
Mm.
um, uh, they hardly ever see any money after they sell it. So, I mean, these two paintings behind me,
Mhm.
what I bought it for, I could probably sell it for something else, but the artist who sold this to me, he'd never see that unless I decided to, give him a cut. Um,
Right.
that's the difference with things in the digital realm, in the form of NFTs and digital assets.
So you're saying it's much safer in the digital realm and more controlled and managed for the artists who put their work out to be able to get paid and to track what's happening to it. Because as you mentioned, those two artworks behind you, somebody could, copy it. How do you know that you're getting the original version of
Yeah,
it?
exactly.
Yeah.
I wouldn't say safe though. It's just more difficult
Right.
to counterfeit, and it is a surefire way for artists to ensure that they know what's happening to their art, and they get their due from their creation.
All right. So what would okay, Alexia, do you want to add to that?
Yeah. So just a few things, because I saw the other Alexia looking like, oh my God, what is he talking about? So I just wanted to like bring it back like a few decimals. Because just as somebody who's also a non-technologist, when they entered this space,
Mhm.
I really wanted to first talk about the risk involved. That's one thing. Like, this is something that you just need to remember, that it's an investment if you're looking to invest. Because I know you mentioned your portfolio earlier, like, it is a risk for anybody watching. They need to take the same mindset that you would investing in stocks or REITs, real estate, anything like that. When you're looking to invest in NFTs, the same mindset you should have. Then also, I know that it's still a novelty and all these different things, but we can't ignore that it's a bear market currently. A bear market means that the overall crypto market itself is down. So even though, like, yup, there's still all this novelty, and of course the community is still very much innovating and pressing on, we can't like ignore those things. So I just wanted to red flag the conversation with that before we start. And I know you were mentioning value. And in terms of value, I want to go back to Bonito's point, because of course we're hearing smart contracts and blockchain and all these different things, but something I always like to bring back is the art and the creativity in itself. And I know Trevor mentioned other elements that can be turned into NFTs because there's music, people do dances, like literally once you're able to put it into that smart contract, anything can be a digital asset. And I know we're talking about opportunities for the Caribbean. And just being able to work with so many projects across the region that are just doing things like from digital in terms of physical clothing and then putting NFTs to that, like Anya and Wildflowers doing that in Trinidad and Tobago, and then from Bonita doing prints and being able to translate that into value, because we have people come to us all the time like, okay, this is cool, but do you actually make money? So that's always a big question. And the first thing I'd always tell anybody is to just do your own research. And I know that could seem very, very cliche, but it's a very volatile space. And even though it is safer in theory, a lot of things go wrong. A lot of people lose money in the community. You call it getting robbed. So I don't want people to ignore those things, but I also don't want that to be a hindrance to creatives or entities or people just looking into entity space, because crypto isn't going to go anywhere. And NFTs has been a point of entry for a lot of people to cryptocurrency, myself included, Bonito included, where there've been artists who came into this space like 6 months ago, and now just by being consistent and putting their work out, just getting insane opportunities. And I know Bonito is a testament to that, and even like some of the brand partnerships that we're working on now. So really, I just wanted to speak more in terms of the opportunity for this space, and for persons to just take your time, enter slowly, and just read. YouTube is, I know YouTube is live for creatives, because not on the reading side, but there's way too much information for us in this region to not be taking full reins of this opportunity and not have other people take our culture and our pillars in terms of how we create to do it for themselves and make money off of it. So I just wanted to say that. Of course, we could go into the idiosyncrasies of it all in terms of smart contracts, but the great thing is there are lots of marketplaces out there that help you with this in terms of creating smart contracts when you are minting, so that you, the creative or even collectors, you don't have to kind of focus on those elements. Of course, you could dive deeper in terms of doing more research in terms of understanding smart contracts, as they're all available for you to read it. And a smart contract is really just like that binding agreement on the blockchain that coders would write as well, that just has all the information in it. But there's a lot of marketplaces like a Super Ray, a Foundation, or OpenSea that do this.
Can you take your okay? Can you mention the marketplaces? I'm sure like someone who's listening right now who wants to sign up for an NFT or wants to start, they have work, they would want to get it digital and they would like to sign up. Could you just explain the process? What are the marketplaces available? What is the process for a young artist who wants to make money from their work? How do they get it digital? Just if you can go through that process, that would be great.
Sure. So in terms of marketplaces, the easiest one to get onto is OpenSea. It's also the largest marketplace currently. So it's literally free to enter in terms of you just set up your profile just like you would on like an Instagram or a Twitter. And then it's a case of just like minting your pieces on. Minting in itself is difficult, especially for instance in the Caribbean, because it means you need crypto to mint. And something that we still have a lot of difficulty doing is being able to buy cryptocurrency, because our local bank accounts don't easily allow us to purchase cryptocurrency. So that's something we also need to say when having these conversations. So a lot of people have to use third-party apps like a CEXIO, like a Kraken, to actually purchase crypto to mint. So that's a big thing that's happening right now, that's just kind of limiting the artists and creators on the whole to get onto these marketplaces. I see a question here. How does the marketplace community around a project impact the NFT price?
Right.
So the marketplace itself doesn't really impact the NFT price. The community is what impacts the price, because just like how you have a stock and something could happen, like say something happens with a board or whatever, like the price could dip or increase. It's the same thing for a project in itself. So I don't know if anybody here knows about like the Luna crash, which would have been a token that happened, and then basically the CEO just went MIA and cashed out like upwards of $80 million and disappeared, and then the token just crashed. So things like that kind of stimulates what happens with a project. But for like creatives or artists, it's more a case of your community can uplift your project. So for example, Bonito has like at the time when we launched his one-of-one collection, like 1,000 followers on Twitter. but we like got everybody from like the Jamaican and diaspora kind of degen, which is like the crypto NFT community, to really support him and rally around him and really be a voice for him. So just for creators, any space you need to just like build your audience and build your community around that. Like people don't just buy the art, they buy into the person, because remember, people are investing in you when they purchase this, because this is like a $300 US and up kind of art piece or work of art that people are buying. They are investing in you, the person. So when you show just more traction in terms of what you can do in the future, it's like if you're pitching to a business to get funding, it's kind of like to look at it in the same way, like you're kind of doing a seed wrong in essence, but for your creative works. So that's how the communication should be when you're thinking about it, versus like, okay, artwork, put in this, knit this, you know what I mean? But how are you giving value to these people? Like, how are they growing with you, learning with you? And that's really been a big success story in terms of what we do, in terms of just putting Don Dada to market and to the community, and even just selling to international brands as well to partner with us and work with us, and really exporting Jamaican and Caribbean culture, not just for him, but really for the region in terms of us doing this and representing this space.
Okay, that's very, 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 very insightful, Alexia.
I also want to add something to what Alexia was pointing out. Um, in specific relation to the question that was asked, I think it's important, especially for those who want to get and start to get into the whole NFT space themselves. There are two considerations of cost as it relates to the NFT. There's a cost to actually create the NFT.
Right, I was going to ask that. Yep.
Which obviously will have some impact on what you're going to sell it for or what it ultimately gets sold for. So what has happened though? So in the initial days, in the infancy of NFTs, NFTs were created on specific blockchain platforms, and there was a particular cost associated with it. And as the value of NFTs and of course the interest around NFTs went up, coming out of the work that communities would do around these things, the cost of creating NFTs started to go up, and this represented a real challenge, especially for people who wanted to get into the space, but one didn't have the cryptocurrency assets, so to speak, to get into it. So what some of the marketplaces, and again fueled by the community, started to do was to change the way and the platforms that they used to create NFTs, thereby driving the cost of NFT creations down. Because initially NFTs were created on primarily Ethereum blockchains. Now they are created on Ethereum-based blockchains, which are more efficient and less costly. So what you find happening now is you can literally mint an NFT with at zero cost to you, because the platforms are now flexible enough to say, we don't need to charge you to mint it, but what we're going to do is we're going to say, whenever it's sold, we'll take a cut out of the
percentage of
price and then send you on your way. Why? Because the networks and the platforms that they're being built on, some of these marketplaces and the minting process and so on, facilitates this kind of thing in a more efficient way. So for people who want to get into that space, you have to be mindful of how you and which marketplaces you use that facilitate your budget, because it's not everybody can afford to go on certain marketplaces and mint. But there are certain marketplaces that are more favorable to the first timers and ones that are getting on. But I just wanted to top the community and the work that you do around your art, your creation, and so on, which is extremely important, because now it's a one-to-one relationship between artist and purchaser. It's
Yeah.
very important to know that particular situation of creation and minting and so on.
Okay.
On
But
that note,
Mhm.
Trevor, just wanted to ask a quick question based on what Alexa said and you said. Do you believe the government, not only Jamaica but in the Caribbean, could do more in promoting and allowing persons to understand NFTs in the orange economy?
You want me to get into a government conversation?
No, for Alexa and
I can
Bonito,
talk about that all day long. But
but I mean, just some highlights.
let me tell you what is the challenge from a governmental standpoint. They don't get it.
Mm.
So they don't fully understand it and what is happening in the when you look at the international uh, space and the conversations being had, between various governments. Um, you'll hear things like FATF. You will hear about government thoughts on regulation and so on. What you're going to find is that, I was just reading a report that came out a couple months ago from the Treasury Department talking about the concerns they have about NFTs and the role it plays in money laundering. So you'll find that uh, the status quo is being fiercely defended because of what NFTs represent, um, and governments that are not informed or filled with people who are not informed and do not seek to inform themselves will not get it. So they will be comfortable sitting in the status quo.
Mm.
If it is that we're to get them to facilitate what this thing represents and what it can do, especially for the region, because the region is a melting pot of
Mm.
talent and creativity that can benefit hugely from what NFTs can do, then we have to actually take some time to educate the policymakers and decision makers, because right now they're only hearing one side of the conversation, which is coming from their international and global colleagues and institutions, multilaterals and so on. And that's the only conversation they're hearing, and those conversations do not facilitate what is embodied in NFTs and crypto and so on. So I would say it's not what the governments can do, it's what
Mm.
the community or people like us can do in
Mm.
educating them,
Advocating for.
convincing them as to
Mm.
the real value, the economic value that exists within this space.
Right. As I
Also,
mentioned
just to
before.
add,
Okay, go ahead. Go ahead, Alexis. Sorry.
it's to remember that this is decentralized. So
Mm.
decentralized means no government. So even like that treasury document that Trevor mentioned, is that a lot of governments now are trying to regularize and policy just keep cryptocurrency on the hold. Because as you
Mm.
mentioned, it takes out the middleman. You don't
Mm.
need to have a seat at the table to be able to have access to this space and make a lot of money. So asking to have more government just like input or just anything is kind of like almost like a shot in the foot in essence, because one, the overall banking infrastructure in itself is just years behind. Hence, I don't even know if you know this, but like Jamaica's on a blacklist, like in so many countries. I can't even send money from Trinidad to Jamaica, just regular fiat cash. So when you
Mm.
look at cryptocurrency, it's just like another thing to do.
Mm.
It's just so many barriers of entry before you even get policymakers on board. You know what I mean? So there are a lot of different people within the region just creating their own in terms of wallets, in terms of tokens and crypto for persons to be able to access this. So it's very difficult, and what a lot of these governments just agencies or bodies are doing is trying to regulate it and limit how much people can make in terms of just the space, in terms of projects. So even if like if you go on LinkedIn right now, like half of these marketplaces have like policymakers spots open because the governments are going after them because they know how much money they're making and they want a piece of that and they want to regularize and earn off of it. So there's so many different just like idiosyncrasies from it. But for the persons in the chats, I asked Kimiko to just put my NFT guide there, which really just has everything in it because I know these talks are really fast. Just in terms of persons who want marketplaces, who want to know how to set up their wallet, everything is in there. She puts it on the YouTube and the LinkedIn I'm seeing here. So feel free for anybody to just click on that and read up on it later on. And I saw Darren ask how to support Jamaican projects and find them. So I think Bonito could answer that. I'm not trying to take over your chat.
Well, yeah, there are lots of creators and there are a lot of projects out there. People are doing a lot of things. I would kind of just expand it to the wider Caribbean in general. The main space that you can find artists are on Twitter. Like we're always talking about our work, we're always posting. Um, there are a few artists that I would say that you can follow. There's a Jamaican creative called Idris. Um,
Idris,
yeah, Idris. ID.
IDRIS.
Yeah, I don't
Okay.
remember his last name, but he's doing things in the NFT space. Taj Francis had a drop on Super Rare. Um, there are a couple others. There is Nick from Trinidad that's also doing things in the NFT space. There's Zoe from Barbados. So there are lots of creatives out there that's making content and making works. I also have I'm also having some shows coming up, dropping some new collections on Super Rare. And those will be out for like the next 4 months, two collections, a lot of pieces, so you can look out for that as well.
Also, there's
Alright.
a kind of page called, well, not page, it's called Island, which is founded by Wyatt, Anya Yangchi, and Nicholas Huggins, which is just an overall marketplace specifically for Caribbean-based projects. So it's called ISLND for anybody looking, and they specifically highlight Caribbean projects on there. So I definitely just want to plug them. That's
Yeah, that's
something
the best.
really great that they launched a few months ago. So that is one general place you can go to find Caribbean-based projects that are NFTs.
Awesome. All right. We were talking just before we go live. We went live, Trevor, and you mentioned where I was asking for any artists in Jamaica, especially on the musical stage. You mentioned Basie from TOK and Buju Banton. He said that he had dropped about 10,000 NFTs. I mean, what is the best practice around this? Because you started out with regard to exclusivity, so supply and demand. If it's 10 out there, then you can sell it for more. So dropping 10,000 of any. I mean, how would that affect Buju Banton?
All right. So let me tell you, BSC is perhaps the first dancehall artist to get into the NFT space in a major way, so to speak. Um, but then after you have that happening, then a lot of people start to show interest and follow, and they don't necessarily do things in the best way. So one of the things with NFTs is again exclusivity and the being able to make the asset special. Now, one of the things Basie does is whenever he creates an NFT, each one has special benefits tied to it, and each one might have a different benefit. So you might buy one NFT for a particular song or album, and in purchasing an NFT, you get tickets to all his shows. You might buy another one, and you might get a meet and greet in person, that kind of thing. So now, if you have 10 of those, the value of those 10 with all the attendant benefits around it is what drives the price of that thing. When you have a whole heap of it, then the value kind of gets watered down. So when you decide, say you're going to drop 10,000 FT of one song, um, it's hard to manage the special nature of each one of those. You see what I'm saying? So
Right.
you might find that somebody who drops 10
Mm.
may literally make more, and
More money than.
value associated may literally make more than somebody who dropped 10,000.
Mm.
And don't forget, there's a cost to make those 10,000, depending on
Mm.
platforms that you use.
Right.
So I think what's important is to understand the value of scarcity.
Mm.
So like, Bonita had mentioned, like super rare. That's one of the operating principles behind super rare. It's like to create some level of exclusivity, which then creates a different value proposition for the people who are looking to 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 participate in that space. Um, so yeah, there are artists. I've had discussions with a number of producers and so on around, you know, the future of NFTs in the music space, because that's huge. I'm a producer myself, so trying to explain to them the differences that prevail now
Yeah.
with digital assets, the whole concept of masters, and the fact that masters don't exist
Mm.
in this space. The value of the creation now has to be viewed in a completely different way. So I think one of the biggest areas for artists is this space, NFT space. It solves a lot of problems that they've been battling with for a very long time. Um, but I want to just end by saying music and artwork aren't the only profitable and appealing use cases for NFTs. I think you're going to find that what is making NFTs very popular now is going to look very different in another couple of years. So you're going to start seeing situations where NFTs, uh, you know, will be used for real estate. They'll be used for more for intellectual property. They'll be used for things like identity management.
Mm.
Yeah, that kind of stuff. Because NFTs demonstrate proof of ownership, but they do it in a very clever way, so to speak. So you're going to find that there are going to be a whole bunch of new use cases that NFTs will start to find its real value in. So it's going to be broader than just creative works. So I think the future for NFTs is very exciting. Uh, but I think we have to find the sweet spot for where the most value can be extracted. And we have crazy talent in music and creativity that way. And I think NFTs represents uh, major conduit for that. We just need to get policymakers to understand that, so that they don't confuse and conflate, uh, the benefits of NFTs with the challenges and concerns around cryptocurrencies, because that's a lot of what is happening, and that is being conflated in the worst way. And the real value and benefits of NFTs are not being realized by these people because they're clueless. They don't get it.
Right. So that's the thing now. So if somebody's listening, especially I will particularly know speaking to you guys for the last 45 minutes, I now have a better understanding of NFTs and some of the challenges that like the persons in the music industry, some of the artists would have in the past. This sounds like an avenue where they could protect their work and get paid for it, right? So if someone who's listening right now, an artist, how do they, who do they go to? Who do they go to help to get them signed up? Is there any body, any company? Who do they ask for support?
Well, I mean, it's all on you, I mean, if you're serious about this environment, and I mean, yeah, people like Bonita and Alexia out there,
Mm.
um, There are artists out there that are in the space. There's a lot of people out there. It's just that the channels for the information, you have to go do your homework. A lot of times people don't want to do the homework. So what happens now is you have entities that are formulated to take the work off of the artists and do it for them. I know a couple of entities looking to be formed to do that. But I think first and foremost, creatives need to do their own homework. There's a lot of information out there: YouTube, Twitter, Discord, just on the web generally. It's overwhelming at times, but the info is out there. Find some of the movers and shakers in that space and talk to them, because that's how the information is shared. It's a community thing. So that's how you need to do that. I know a lot of people in the music business, especially dancehall, they don't like do that. They don't like to collaborate and share information. It's a sad thing,
Right.
but that is how you have to function. What I would also perhaps want to see is our own platforms that are created for our own creatives in this space that help them along the way to get there. So yeah, there's OMC, there's Rarible, and all of those. I love to have one that is really tailored for our people in the region, with our particular needs and capabilities and skill sets, to showcase that, because there's tremendous value there.
Well, as a business
We
person,
don't need somebody else in a foreign going to do it.
exactly, right. And that's one of the challenges that we're having now, even with digital payments. We had a discussion last week, and we need a Caribbean body, or so, where we can doing something in the US is completely different. So as a business person myself, I see this as an opportunity for any business person listening, because people don't like to research. People can't bother to do that heavy lifting. So they would employ somebody to do that for them, or employ a company. So I see it as an opportunity.
It is.
Oh, I just wanted to chime in terms of music NFT platforms. So there's Catalog. So that's one, and then there's also Audius. And then there's also, God, I forgot the other one. But this is probably going to be very controversial, but it's true. I don't think Jamaican artists and musicians have taken any type of proper advantage of this space at all. And it still comes down to that thing in terms of education and just having the knowledge to do it properly. Somebody who's doing it brilliantly in this region, because this is opportunities for the Caribbean, is Halik Mal, and he's from Barbados. And he creates music NFTs specifically alone. And he literally is one of the highest selling NFT earners in this region. I'm talking about upwards of 50 ETH in terms of some of his music NFTs being sold for. And he is somebody...
50 what?
50 ETH. So ETH is Ethereum. Yeah, so that's a cryptocurrency that's...
And what is that equivalent in US dollars? I don't know anything.
Well, a few months ago, it would have been like 1 ETH to US would have been like about 3,000 USD. But now it's around like 1,000 to 1,500 USD fluctuating. So just do 50 times 3,000 US at that point in time. But now it's about like 1,500 USD equivalent. So for persons who want to get just more information, he's a great person to follow in terms of Twitter, Instagram. He also has a community called Holders Land. That is for the Caribbean in terms of sharing information and sharing knowledge and insights. We need to look at other people. It's not just Jamaica. And in terms of technology, Jamaica is very slow to adapt, period. As much as they are great entrepreneurs and innovators here, we need to look at other people in our region and learn from them. He's very cool in terms of following what he's doing and just like learning and researching and speaking to him in terms of DM, anything like that. Like I've reached out and met so many people by just DMing them and sending a message. And like things like pride and all these things just need to get pushed to the side, because at the end of the day, you will get left behind. Innovation does not stop. And then with this current just like recession coming, you're going to need to pivot and innovate and learn and change. You can't be stuck in your old ways. So I just really want to say that to anybody else on this. Like, there's always going to be barriers to entry, but you just need to figure it out. And once you have a will to do something, one, people are going to show up just out of the blue in terms of helping you, and you put it out there. There's so many people we've met across the region, across the diaspora, that's helped us, that's just lended information and guided us. So yeah, just put yourself out there in terms of your work, wanting knowledge. Like, there's so many opportunities that come from just like making a tweet or just sharing a post on LinkedIn in terms of what you're trying to do. You don't know who can see it. So that's just one thing I'd say. But you need to do the research and just take the time to immerse yourself in this space. But I don't think it's short of opportunity at all.
All right, Alexia, I have this question for you, or Trevor, or Bonita. Any one of you can answer. It's just a controversial question. So, if you were, if you were the Minister of Tourism for Jamaica, how how would you, based on our assets and what we have here in Jamaica, you yourself, how do you think that the minister or the government could market some of our product, and what products we think could become NFTs?
Wrong minister. Okay, first thing, wrong minister. I mean, all credit to the head, but wrong minister.
All right, forget about the minister. How do you think Jamaica
To be honest with you,
from that, and what can we turn into NFTs?
to be honest with you, I'm not looking for the government to do anything to support this. Like, and this is not just for Jamaica. This is just like in general. Like we established before, the government is coming in to regulate it. It's a decentralized space. It's a space for creatives to do their wildest ideas, right?
Okay.
At the end of the day, you're still making art. The NFT is just the form that it takes. So doing it as an NFT, if you're a bad artist, is not gonna solve your problem. Your work not gonna sell if you're not good at marketing your work. At the end of the day, it goes beyond just the NFT, right? Um, I think there are a lot of opportunities when it comes to culture for creatives to monetize it, right? And we have established those different things that you can do with it. With Haliko, he's flipping, because all of his music is cultural music, like him rapping about like everyday things and infuse it different Caribbean sounds in like trap music, but it comes in the form of an NFT because music is good and he's connected, it sells. It's the same thing. Like, you as an artist find a way to make a product that is true to you, and then build out a larger space around that, build out a community around it. And then you doing it as an NFT, you have more opportunities to branch out. You get me? Like, the thing about it is like you can literally do anything you want, and it's just how you plan on approaching it. You know? Artist from Barbados, you mentioned the music NFT. Lauren, his name is Haleek Mall, Haleek. You can find him on Twitter, or you can go on YouTube. Let me find. Then drop a song with it on YouTube, and it's sick. The
It's
video.
just have to commit to just write it and put it in the chat.
Put it in the chat.
Okay.
I just want to know. So you bring the whole government thing back. I mean, it's a legitimate question, because I think we would be naive in thinking that the government will not be involved in this, because here's a simple reality. You can't go to a supermarket go use an NFT buy nothing, right? So let's just get that straight. Cryptocurrencies are not legal tender in the majority of countries in this region. So regardless of how you want to slice it up and how you want it to be, there's always going, well, no, not always. For now, there still exists a bridge between the virtual currency space and fiat space. And fiat is traditional financial systems. Traditional financial systems are globally controlled. governments and countries exist within the context of these constructs, right? So yeah, you can't hope to succeed in these things without understanding what you have to defeat in order to make it successful. Because at the
Right.
end of the day, you still have to go buy a Pepsi, buy a KFC, or them something, right? So the thing about it now is okay, you don't want governments to regulate it, but that doesn't mean that they can't be involved.
Right. Right.
Now, what you have to do is to to understand how you get them to stay out of it while still, you know,
Still have
Benefiting from it.
not getting them to be too concerned about what's happening, right? So, and that's the trick, right? Because if you can demonstrate, and listen, I was fortunate enough to have a conversation with former Prime Minister of Costa Rica and say, how do you get government people, policymakers to make decisions that go against the grain, right? So you see it in El Salvador. El Salvador goes full bore into Bitcoin, make it, you know, legal tender and so on. And all of a sudden, strange things starts to happen because the system in which they exist, International Monetary Fund, multilaterals, all of that stuff, you start to say, oh, logistics becomes a problem because shipping of goods there just slows down. Why? Because somebody made a phone call and says, we don't like what you're doing. So if you're doing business with them, this is what's going to befall you. Suddenly, they're up the proverbial creek.
Mm.
You can't be naive to those realities. So what we have to do is one, understand these things, but understand how to know, educate, because the lack of education that makes governments do silly things as it relates to these groundbreaking and
Right.
revolutionary things that we're trying to do.
Mm.
Educate them,
Mhm.
right? So that they don't make dumb decisions like saying, oh, well, if it's cryptocurrency, not happening here.
Mhm.
No, how about you facilitate certain things
Mhm.
within the context of what
regular.
appears to be okay
Mm.
when you think about regulation. I'm not regulating, but
Right.
because
No, no
that's the
security
reality
is
that they exist in, right? So what you have to do now is you have to start to, and a lot of people don't like to do this, but I'm constrained to have to think that way given what I've had to do. But you know, to start to look at things like legislation, laws, because you don't want to allow them make
And you
that
don't think about them.
squeeze this stuff.
Right.
And if laws are coming, you want to make sure that they do not, you know. Um, so that's one aspect of things. The other aspect is, the community can't stop. Because if you look at what happened with something like the open source community, which I was a huge proponent of, since, 91, um, the community never stopped, right? And it is because it never stopped that companies like Apple and Microsoft had no choice but to adapt to the open source paradigm.
Right.
Given how things are going now with crypto, NFTs, and so on, if we keep advocating the right way, which means they need to learn the system, then they can't stop it. They can't stop it, right? But the battle is a battle of understanding, you know, the competition that you're facing, which is the fiat system.
Mm.
Believe me, a whole heap of dollars a mash up because of these things. So when you
Right.
start to see, reports talking about money laundering, terrorist activities, a lot of that is just to create fear, uncertainty, and doubt. But okay, how do we mitigate instances of that, even in, you know, this reality that we want, which is a decentralized space. That's the battle you have to fight, right? Because outside of that, this guy is going to eat all the, wishful thinking for lunch every day. And, easy, easy, easy. So we have to be a little bit more, you know, cognizant of what is required for this stuff to succeed, and more so the kinds of battles that you have to fight for it to win. Yeah.
Thank you.
Great,
Very,
Bonnie.
I like your perspective on that, Trevor. But I think Bonito, I have a question. Or you want to
Um,
add to what you said?
I'm sorry, I forgot my point.
You forgot your point.
Yeah.
All right, Adrian, do you want to add anything?
So I think it was a great conversation, and I'm quite excited. Uh, my company as well is looking at NFTs,
Right.
more utility based. So we've talked about all the benefits, allowing individuals to get that level of exclusivity, feeling special. That's something that we're looking at. Love what was mentioned in regards to the future value of it. Yeah, you're right. In a couple of years, probably buying a vehicle or exchanging your vehicle for something else with an NFT. So it does open up a lot of, basically, it opens up the Caribbean to the rest of the world, in my opinion. Yeah, regulation is going to be tough. I mean, that's the big question, exactly how to tackle something like that. Uh, and it doesn't look good, obviously, with certain individuals who are really just launching NFTs with one purpose, which is just to scam people out of money. So those off instances are giving the entire industry a bad name. And then with that, as was said, I'm just going to repeat it: educate yourselves. They can't scam you if you really know that they're scamming you. So the idea is with NFTs, like I said, you're investing in a person. You're investing in a vision, what they're trying to do. So if you're willing to put your money towards that for that purpose, yes. From the financial investment context, if it's really just about investing to sell it secondary market, that type of stuff, I guess that's more speculative. That's a completely different thing. But as an investor, if you have the money, like with any stocks, you invest in a company if you're willing to lose the money, or if you really care about the company and you're trying to support their growth. So I think the same advice applies to NFTs as it does any forms of investment or financial literacy. But I'm very excited for what everybody's doing, and I'm going to be watching this space intently. So it's awesome, awesome work, everybody.
Perfect.
And great. Thanks, everyone. I know, and just want to thank you for joining the Jamaica Technology and Digital Alliance Tech Talk Tuesdays. Really want to thank Alexia James. You need to follow her. She's, not knowing about NFT and meeting Alexia, I feel like I just got a crash course on everything. So if I'm a creator, like I'm like, whoa, these are the steps I need to take. Trevor deep dived into, legislation and what needs to be done and the processes. And Bonito just gave us the perspective of from an artist and different things. And summarizing, Adrian just wrapped up everything and just put a nice bow on it. We need to research. And just reiterating what Alexia said, we need to research the space. There are some risks, but if it is, join these communities on Twitter. If you are Twitter newbie, you need to join because these are the spaces they operate. Research. It is an investment tool. And if you're a creator, reach out to Alexa, reach out to Bonito, reach out to Hadika. I hope I'm pronouncing the name properly. Do your research. Don't just limit yourself to the Jamaican space. Go get the knowledge. Reach out to these creatives. As Alexa said, she DM'd and be like, okay, let's collaborate. Let's put it aside, build more Caribbean unity to really create opportunities in this space. I really want to thank the panelists for joining us. Lovely. My co-host Twitter and really, was amazing. I look out for another TikTok Tuesday. And I just want to plug, if you are not a member of the JTDA, what are you waiting on? Visit our website, www.jtda.org. And guess what? We're not only for Jamaica, we are assisting throughout the Caribbean with our membership program. Look out for us. I know, become a member, sign up for a newsletter so you can be aware of all this information. Visit Alexia's website to just get a crash course. Look out for Trevor on LinkedIn, Twitty, and Adrian. reach out to them if you still want some more information so they can guide you. And we look forward to seeing you next week. Have a great evening.
Thanks for having us.
Well,
All right. Thank you, guys.
Everyone, thank you so much.
All right. Bye.